Hi, I'm Margaret and this is Max Sing Along. Today I'd like to talk about what is happening in our throats while we are singing. So singing is a little bit different than playing other instruments, mostly because it is our body and it's inside of us where the sound is being produced. Whereas other instruments, the sound is being produced outside of us. We are controlling an object to make sound. But ours is inside of our body and we can't see inside there. So it can be a little weird to learn how to play our instrument. It's different. So it's important to know what is going on. So basically, let's start with the anatomy. Inside of our throat is this thing called the larynx. Sometimes we call it the voice box because it's basically where the sound is being vibrated. The larynx sits on top of the trachea. The trachea is like our windpipe where air can go in and out of when we breathe. Now inside the larynx are three main cartilages, a bone called the hyoid bone, and 5 muscle groups. So there's kind of a lot going on in there. And then most importantly, right in the center are the vocal folds, also known as the vocal cords, and those basically vibrate, creating sound. So that's what's inside of our throat. So let's delve into what those muscles are doing in the larynx because they have a lot of effect on the vocal folds, which will affect how our sound is coming out. So some of the muscles in the larynx are responsible for closing the vocal folds. So for example, if you take in a breath and hold it, you'll feel there's closure there. You can't breathe in or out. And also they're responsible for making sounds. So when the vocal folds come together to close, we make a sound, ah. There's muscles in the throat that are responsible for opening the vocal folds. So we need that to happen to breathe. It's nice and open. And then more importantly for singing, there are muscles that stretch and thin the vocal folds. They're very tight and they can only come together at the tip. And that is required for us to make higher pitches. That's what those muscles do. And then there are muscles that are responsible for thickening and shortening the vocal folds so they come together all the way. And you can see my hands are mimicking vocal folds. And that's what, when we make really lower sounds and stronger, powerful sounds, that's when our vocal folds are very thick. So those are the main muscles in our throat responsible for how the vocal folds are shaped. So what do we do with this knowledge? It basically gives us more awareness of what's happening so that we can control our voice better. And we can strengthen muscles. So we can focus on strengthening the certain muscles we need to sing the way we want to sing. So let's talk about first the muscle that thickens and shortens the vocal folds, the thyroarytenoid. It's a really long name. We'll just call it the TA muscle. That is responsible for thickening and shortening the folds so that we get a really beefy, strong, powerful sound that tends to be a little bit lower in the range. And so what we're gonna do is just practicing yelling at someone, like you're really angry or powerful, like, hey you! And you get to yell at someone if you feel like it. Why not? Maybe good to do in the car or somewhere safer. Or if you're really angry, yell at someone and notice it's pretty chesty. We call this chest voice. We tend to feel the vibration in our chest too. So that's, I think, why it got its name. But really, it's the vocal folds are just super thick. They're vibrating thickly. So we get that powerful sound that resonates in our chest. Now on the other spectrum, we have the cricothyroid, another long name, we'll just call it the CT muscle for short. And that is mostly responsible for thinning the vocal folds, making them tight and thin. And it makes them come together really fast, so we get a really high pitch for those sounds. So now I want you to go, woohoo! Or you can howl to the moon, ow! Basically, it will trigger the head voice, and you'll feel sound go into the head, and that's what we call head voice. So the vocal folds are just really thin, but we feel sensation differently. We feel vibration more higher in our head. So we have chest voice and head voice, and you can see the pitch has changed too. Now, when we're singing songs, sometimes it's hard to maneuver between chest and head. Those two muscle groups sometimes don't switch very easily, and when that happens, we get kind of the effect of a crack or a break, very natural. And with time and learning how to smooth out the break, that will go away. But it's just good to know that there's a difference in what's happening in the throat, and it's good. Let it happen. So a great example of singing between the different registers, chest or head voice, is yodeling. Yodeling is very chest, immediately into head, and immediately back to chest, and so on. It's a very quick switch between the voices. So if you go yodeling, yodeling, I'm going chest voice to head voice, chest voice back to head voice, and back, and I stay there. So that's switching the muscle groups in my throat. I feel the vibration differently too. The sound waves are traveling into slightly different places in my instrument, in my body. So if you pay attention to songs you hear on the radio, or just try singing yourself, you might notice when you go a little bit higher, it's hard to bring chest voice, that I eventually has to switch into head voice. And the same thing the other way. Head voice can't really go all the way down, it has to switch. So see if you can try some songs that maybe have a big range, and notice if there's that change. Okay, I'm going to sing a song from you to show this example of chest into head voice. And it's from a musical called Hamilton, very popular right now. And it's the song You'll Be Back, sung by a man. And men and women have the same muscle switching going on. Men just feel it, they have it higher in their range, but we all have that break, that switching going on. So the song, where the part where he switches, I'll just sing that. He goes, you say your love is draining and you can't go on. I went from chest voice, you say your love, into head voice, oh, and I let that switch happen. Now with practice and training and strengthening of the muscles, you can actually develop the ability to choose if you switch into head voice or not, depending on where you're singing in pitch and the emotion you're expressing in the song. So for example, if he decided to stay in chest, he might be able to with some practice. You say your love is draining and you can't go on. A different effect, right? But he chooses to go into head voice, which is actually pretty impressive for the male voice when we hear it. So there's choices we can make as singers, but first it's good to just practice chest, practice head, separate them, see if you can feel the difference and hear the difference, and see if you can put that into practice when you sing your songs. So just to recap, there are muscles in our throat that are responsible for how the vocal folds come together to make sound, and it can change the quality of our sound and how we feel it and how we hear it. Men's and women's voices, they all have these different switching going on between the muscles. Men, you will feel the switch into your head voice way higher than a woman will. Depending, there's a variety in the genders, but you will typically feel it much higher, and it's also known as falsetto for men. Means the same thing. And yeah, so I'm Margaret, and this is Mags Sing Along. You can join me every week for tips on singing.